Hey guys, it's Clara here, and I'm with Jason Rona from JConcepts, and he's ready to answer some of the questions you guys had over social media. A Facebook user wanted to know if there's any chance we'll see a body for the Serpent SRX4.
I think at this point we're not going to have one for that particular buggy, just because we have some other projects in the queue right now that have been a little more requested than that particular body. So, we have thought about it. It is on a main list that we have, but it hasn't made it to the top of the list yet. But definitely one of those things that we think about, and we definitely want to support the Serpent cars we have in the past. And if it makes it to the top of the list, then we'll definitely get on it. But as of right now, it's not at the top.
Okay. So, an Instagram user wanted to know. They said, I have a question. I saw you Friday during practice for the 702 Carpet Off-Road Championship. I didn't see you on Saturday. Were you okay? How did the carpet tires perform? What do you recommend when they're released?
Well, I think first of all, I think she's referring to it's the 702 Carpet Off-Road Championships that there was in Vegas. It was true. I was there on Friday practicing. I was running my cars, and what ended up happening is just over the night I got sick, and I don't know if it was food poisoning or what, but I didn't end up being there on Saturday for racing. And my wife Allison was there, and she actually ended up getting sick the next day. So we had a couple rough days in Vegas there, but actually the tires were performing extremely well on the track. We had a great result there when I was running on Friday, and I really was impressed with the performance of it's the pin down rear tire, we're calling it, and it's also the Swagger's two-wheel drive front tire, and they actually performed really well on 702's carpet. We had a guy out there that was using some of the tires, and he actually TQ'd in the two-wheel modified class using those tires, and we were really happy with the results and the speed and the consistency, and look for those to be out pretty soon.
Awesome. Well, it was Vegas, so. So, another Facebook user wanted to know, after the Nationals warm-up in Hutto, Texas, what do you think of the new track size, shape, layout, and facility? What JC tires should I have with me?
Well, when we were just there a couple weeks ago, we were using the Detox tires, which has been a real popular tire for us the last several big races, almost all year. Anytime the track is really hard packed, it has a groove to it, whether it's indoors or outdoors. If it's somewhat clean, the Detox has been probably our best performing tire. The compound always depends on the temperature. If it's warm out, we'll run a harder tire, one of our experimental long wear compounds, or something like orange or blue or red. Those are kind of our compounds in the range that we would run on a track like that, and that's probably what will bring the Nationals itself. What did I think of the facility? It was pretty amazing. They put a roof, basically a building over the entire track. We were there 2 years ago for a Nationals. They had a huge outdoor track. They made it just a little bit smaller and put a building or a roof over the entire track, and it's really nice because they have a lot of weather issues there in Texas, just as we do in Florida. And so it was really nice that they put a roof over it, and I look forward to a good Nationals. And the last one was pretty epic, the main event there, and I kind of expect the same.
Okay. So, a Twitter user asked, the track looked totally different at the World's warm-up at RC Tracks of Las Vegas compared to the Silver State. How did the team adjust, and what changes did you see racing on the different conditions?
Well, it was a big difference. They decided after the Silver State that they weren't going to add a chemical to the track that made it very high grip, high traction. It was also really smooth, and I think one of the things that they got a little bit of feedback that wasn't so great about that surface. And what they ended up doing is saying, hey, we're going to water the track now. So they're out there. They had 4 hoses. They had 4 people on the track crew prepping the track each run. So the qualifiers at the World's warm-up were 10 minutes in length. So usually what that meant was before your qualifier started, there would be the 4 track crew members would come out. They would completely water the track. They would get it ready. The qualifier would start. So about 5 minutes, you'd have an extremely wet track. and then the rest of the time would be a little drier. So we were trying to pick tires that were kind of splitting the difference between the perfect wet track and the dry track condition. So for us, that was important. And how I think it'll affect things going forward, I think it's going to affect things a lot because it's not as consistent now as it was at the Silver State. So the condition is going to play a big factor in which qualifier you're in, and how much water you get, how wet the track is going to be, and then how much it can dry while you race. Because if the sun comes out in Vegas, it's warm, you're in the desert, it could dry out really quickly, and then all of a sudden things are a little bit different. So it's going to change things up. You can still see the same guys are doing well at the top of the standings, and I think what we're going to look forward to is just being a little more specific on what tire we want to use at the given moment. And I think it's still going to be a good race. I think we're going to be chasing the track a lot more now, and so it's going to be a little more of having to pick the right thing at the right time. Which before we ran at Silver State, we ran the same tire the entire time. Here we might change 2 or 3 times. So I'm looking forward to it, and but it's definitely the conditions. They were fun. The drivers commented that they liked it, but it's a little more inconsistent. So we got to prepare for that.
Okay. So another Instagram user asked, I have a Yokomo YZ2, and my racing buddy has an X-Ray XB2. Will you be making any bodies or wings for these emerging vehicles?
I think we've had a couple questions on that now, the Yokomo and the X-Ray vehicles, and we are working on a new body for both of those vehicles. The two-wheel buggy class is obviously the biggest going right now. Those are 2 of the more popular carpet and AstroTurf cars that there is, and I think we're definitely gonna be on having a new body for both of those vehicles as well as a rear wing, and we're gonna offer the front wing as well.
Great. Okay. Facebook user says, spill the beans on the B6. How long have you known about this car, and what options do you think we will see for the future?
Well, obviously it's a project that we worked on with Team Associated, designing a body for that new B6. We've known about it for a little while, not an incredible amount of time, but enough to get the body prepared for the vehicle and kind of get them heading in the right direction in terms of the performance they were asking for. And as far as our parts and accessories, I'd say a couple months down the road we should have a lot of the different options covered for the car. Of course, our main priority to have an option for the body for the vehicle, as well as the front wing and the rear wing. You'll see that very quickly. And then of course we'll get into the carbon fiber and the aluminum options, and also titanium turnbuckles and axles, and the full complement of accessories. But they'll all come gradually as the car becomes available, and and in good time. So I think we'll probably we'll try to target the time when the car comes out, hopefully having a body of our own ready, and then after that, whenever we can finish our designs of upcoming products for it, then we'll get those out as soon as possible, but not until the vehicle is released.
Okay, well there's the B6 for you. So they want to know what wheels will fit the new B6.
Well, what's kind of nice about the new vehicles, it does take the same wheels as the B5 series, and going back to the B4.2. Whenever they went to 12 millimeter hex adapters, all of our wheels are 12 millimeter hex. So all of our current wheels that for the B5, the B5M, all fit right on the B6. So between our 2.2s and our 60 millimeter wheels, they all fit on the B6. So we'll be updating the description to make sure everybody knows on the price list and on the label itself. But yeah, you can look for all those wheels going right on the B6.
Okay. So that wraps up the questions that you guys had for Jason on social media. So just to get to know Jason a little bit more, tell us about your favorite movie.
I probably have several favorite movies. One of them is Quick Change. It's an old movie with Bill Murray and I think Gina Davis. and it's just kind of a comedy, but of a clown robs a bank. That was an older favorite movie that I had.
Interesting.
So that was a funny movie back then. For some reason, I'm drawn to it. If it comes on, I'll see it. So,
Well, everyone should give that a watch.
yep.
And what would you recommend to the racers to prepare? Some methods maybe before a race? I mean,
Yeah.
meditate or certain food you eat.
I think in general, I think the most important things when you're at a large event is you do need. It's tough because it's funny because people say, oh, eat, but when you're racing and you're there all day, sometimes you kind of overlook some of the small things like eating and drinking, and the drivers, I notice when I'm there, they get so heavily involved and wrapped up into their own racing that they forget about a lot of those things. So I think you still have to make time to eat something that's good. You drink plenty of water, especially if you're outdoors. We've seen at some of the events in the past. I know Ryan Mayfield was one of the guys once that he was on the driver's stand at the hot rod shootout, and he said his leg just went to sleep and he fell over while he was driving. He said he was running a qualifier, and all of a sudden he just fell over, and he didn't know what was wrong, and they just assumed that he wasn't staying hydrated enough. It was really hot out there, and so he was, it was kind of scary because he didn't know, he never had that happen before. But personally, I've seen, things like that happen where people get so wrapped up into their own racing, into their own thing, that they forget, that they have to, keep that water going. And so eating, drinking, pretty obvious things. And then before you race, making sure that you have your vehicles prepared ahead of time. Lots of guys are running behind if they go up to a race. What I like to do is get up there a couple races early, where you can kind of talk to everybody and kind of relax a little, and then get ready for your own race. If you're always rushing and you're in a panic, that kind of transfers over into your racing. So you have to be relaxed, and you
Take a deep breath.
Yeah, you got to take some deep breaths. And I think there was Masami was when he was in his prime, he always took a lot of time, and you would see him. I mean, most people don't like doing this because they think people make fun of him. But what he used to do is he used to do a lot of stretching and things before his racing, and you could see him before a big race that I think he was nervous, and he tried to do some things with his stretching and breathing to kind of help him control that moment.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up the questions that you had. Remember that you can comment on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook for JConcepts, and ask any questions. Jason will always be here to answer them, and he's very glad to.